Chris, how's it going?
I'm good. Excited to be back.
Good. So, Chris, we have just launched a 2025 trends report where we have interviewed 10 of the biggest voices in sales on LinkedIn and related topics, shall I say. And one of the trendsetters is with us today. He came to us with a really interesting insight, which is that 98% of buyers actually take influence from senior leaders and the kind of thought leadership of those senior leaders when it comes to making a purchasing decision. You're a bit of a thought leader these days. Obviously, you're doing a lot on social. So maybe our guests can also provide you with a bit of insight as to how to kind of continue to grow your numbers. So without further ado, Sam Winsbury, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, guys. Pleasure to be here. Looking forward to chatting.
I'm not sure I'm in the presence of greatness. I'm not sure I can call myself a thought leader just yet when Sam's on the call, but I'm trying. To be fair, I'm more excited about this podcast than any other, just purely because what I can learn from you, Sam, to be honest, more than interviewing you.
Well, hopefully we can give you some good tips then. Take that personal brand to the next level.
But it's good. But yeah, obviously excited to have you on, as James said. It would be good to tell us a bit about you and particularly the business.
Yeah, so I'm the founder of an agency called Kurogo, and at Kurogo we help founders and CEOs become thought leaders in their industry by building their personal brand. So typically we'll work with, mainly our clients are B2B service providers. Sometimes we get some B2C clients that are looking to raise investment, but a large part of our work is positioning them as thought leaders in their industry and giving them the credibility they deserve, and then producing content with them to amplify that and reach their target audience and get their authority and their credibility in front of their target audience to build thought leadership. And hopefully then convert opportunities for them off the back of it, whether that's investment, whether it's new opportunities, clients, lead, sales. Sometimes it's purely an awareness and authority play. If people are doing things like outreach in the background, having thought leadership live makes that outreach more effective. So yeah, we've been running, coming up to 4 years now officially in the new year. We've worked with over 200 founders and CEOs to build their personal brands. So yeah, it's been a ride, yeah.
It's going well. Every time I see you, you're recruiting, you're hiring. Every time I see you.
It's a constant effort.
I've got to ask just before we move on. Sorry, but I haven't had the chance to ask you before, Sam. But where did the name Kurogo come from?
Oh, this is a great question. Yeah, so I was actually previously called Brandly, and then I thought it was all right. Apparently, that's a terrible name, so a lot of people told me. And I stumbled across this concept called Kurogo, or Kuroko, which is a term in Japanese theatre. So Kuroko is a term for stagehands. And the stagehands in Japanese theatre, they wear like all black or whatever the colour of the back of the set is, and they move all the props around. But because they wear all black or whatever the colour of the set is, you can't see them. And that's kind of what we are to our clients, right? We're doing all the work in the background, making our clients look good online, hopefully without us being noticed or without taking any of the credit.
Nice, love that. That's great.
Sam, how did you start the business? Like, what was the backstory before you started?
Yeah, so I was it's not a rags to riches story, but I was a broke student trying to get any freelance marketing projects I could get. Depending on who I speak to, I tell them that was because I was really conscious about my career, or I just wanted extra beer money whilst I was at uni. Truthfully, it was the latter. But yeah, I was trying to get any kind of freelance marketing projects I could get, and I'd go to events. I'd message people on Facebook. I'd email business owners with videos, and was constantly met with the same response, which is, "Who the hell are you? Like, you're just this 19-year-old kid." And fair enough, right? I was, but I was quite good at marketing. Like, I definitely knew more than these local businesses, right? So tried. Nothing really worked. So I went to the most businessy place I knew, which was obviously LinkedIn, and I tried it there. So I'd post content, I'd connect with business owners, I'd start sending messages. And over time doing that, I started getting a little bit of traction and picking up a little bit of attention. And a few people started reaching out to me saying, "Look, I've seen you posting. Can you help me with my profile? Can you help me with my content?" And yeah, so kind of last couple of years at uni, I consulted a couple of people in the local area. I was at uni in Birmingham, so consulted a few business owners in Birmingham, a couple in other countries as well. Made a nice little side income when I was at uni, but then when I graduated, I was like, right, there's something in this. I'm clearly quite good at this whole personal branding thing. Let me try and launch an agency, because I always wanted to build an agency eventually, I think, when I was at uni. So when I graduated, I kind of gave myself 6 months to really give it a go, and it took off pretty quickly, kind of back end of 2020, start of 2021.
So what was it that you were posting about?
Literally like anything that I learned. if I learned something about marketing, I'd be reading books. I studied psychology, and I was really interested in like how psychology overlapped with marketing, which is obviously a huge topic. So I read a lot around that, and anytime I learned anything, I'd post about it basically. So it's really simple.
But I guess on that point, so our listeners tend to be marketing managers, demand generation leaders, or sales leaders. Like for someone that's looking to dip their toe in, like what's your first piece of advice to that audience?
Yeah, great question. I'd be conscious. This is a bit of a cop-out answer. I'd be conscious about like dipping your toe in, because a lot of people, when they dip their toe in, they dip it in because they've only dipped their toe in, they don't see results, and then they stop. So I try and like, if you can like attack it fully, then I definitely would. If you want to dip your toe in, then the first thing I'd think about to test things out is content. There's a huge piece before that which is really important, which I'm sure we'll talk about, which is positioning, and we should definitely come to that, because that's a reason a lot of people fail with this. But if you just want to like start seeing if this sort of thing might work, start getting a little bit of traction, or just get comfortable with the notion of building a personal brand, just get a few pieces of content out. Literally, when you learn something, teach it, and recognize that you don't have to change the world with every post or provide groundbreaking insight in every single post. You do that over a 6-12 month period of publishing content. It doesn't have to be like groundbreaking insight in one post. So just teach one little nugget of information that you would have liked to have known 6 months ago, and to your audience, that's probably going to be gold.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I'm still learning. I only just realised the last month or two I meant to click my follower button on, so I did have that hidden for months. So like, I've done a whole load of great stuff and realised that was switched off. So I've got a long way to go. Sure. To be fair, Sam, I talk about, like you mentioned, what do I know? What do I learn? It's about sales, marketing, new business. So I generally share stuff around what's happened in the day-to-day, what I've had a conversation with a client around, what's something that's going on in this space that I think probably is quite valuable. I think my biggest thing is spend a bit of time, like you mentioned, with the positioning. What is it I want to speak about, and I probably have a bit of authority on. And then secondly, so far, consistency, which is hard. Like I can imagine, I can see the draw for particularly owners, founders, CEOs who are busy in their day to day. I'm lucky enough that I've carved out time every day to make sure the post goes out once a day at least. But that is tough when at this level.
Yeah, one thing I say to that is definitely try and batch produce content if you can. So speak to a lot of people who are literally writing and publishing content on the same day. Massive help if you can spend 2 hours on a Friday, for example, write all of your content for the next week or the next 2 weeks, and then schedule it. And then whatever goes on in your life or in the business, you've got a piece of content going out. You're reaching thousands of potential customers, potential clients for you. You're nurturing relationships with them, whether you're thinking about it or not. You've got that kind of working in the background, and that way content starts to act as like a 24/7 salesperson for your business, and it's a really good one.
I agree. We had our first couple of inbounds recently who said, "Oh, I came across you guys because I saw something you posted on LinkedIn." I was like, "Oh, okay, it's finally paying off," which is great.
Yeah, that's it.
A previous point that was made that I feel like we need to go back to is the point around not having the follower button on your profile, because I've actually noticed that as a mistake that a lot of people make. Sam, can you just explain like how do people, if they're interested in getting into starting to post content on LinkedIn and actually build up their followers, like how can they have the follower setting on their profile versus just the connect button?
Yeah, so you're bang on. There's two different buttons you have, and actually this came in when LinkedIn introduced creator mode. Like must have been this time last year or the year before. I think they've ditched it now. Creator mode just isn't a thing. It's just changing the button. So you can change the main button on your profile from connect or follow, but you can have up to 30,000 connections, which is where you follow them and they follow you. So us three are all connected to each other because we all follow each other. But you can also have follower, which is where they follow you, but you don't follow them. Your connections, I don't know if it's still a thing, but certainly historically has been capped out at 30,000. So if you're just starting, you're probably a way off that and not really at risk. Even now, I think I only have like 16,000 connections or something and 40,000 followers. So you'll build up those connections slower. But yeah, you want to set your main button to follow rather than connect, because that means you can have lots and lots of people follow you really easily and get your content in their feeds without you having to connect with them and get their content in your feeds. So it's not going to make or break your strategy, but if you're going to take this seriously, you should probably do it.
Does it make sense to like clear out your connections? Like, is there such a thing as having bad connections?
Theoretically, yes. So if you've got a load of connections that are completely irrelevant, it could make your content look worse than it is. And the reason that happens is because, so when you post, right, LinkedIn's got an algorithm that determines whether your post is good or not. And LinkedIn wants to show good posts to their audience to keep people on the platform. That's basically how they make money, right? The more time people spend on the platform, the more ad money LinkedIn get, more ad revenue they get. So LinkedIn's algorithm will promote content that is seen to be engaging. And the way they track that is obviously likes, comments, reposts, but also view time. So how long someone spends on your post. Now, what it will do in the first hour of you posting is it shows it to a subsection of your audience. Let's say, for example, it's 10%. No one knows what the exact percentage is, but it shows it to a subsection of your first degree connections. So people that follow you, basically, or people that you're connected to. And it basically takes a sample of the engagement you get from those people to determine how good it is. And then it will push to more of your followers if it's good, and then your second degree followers, so people that follow you. And that's where you see like James liked this, and then it will show Chris's post. That might be an example of a second degree connection seeing your content. All of that is to say that if you have a load of connections that are completely irrelevant to what you do, they're probably not going to find your content interesting, but they are going to be shown your content in that first like 10% sample. And if they're not relevant to what you do, they're obviously not going to find it interesting, and they're not going to engage. Not necessarily because the content's bad, just because they're completely like in a different industry or have no relevance to it whatsoever. So you want to be quite careful, but you can be far more liberal than you think. Like, so many people are so concerned about having like the right audience. They only want the right people. I would definitely be more liberal than that. But if you've completely pivoted careers or geographies, that's where you might want to think about it. So positioning, really, really important. This is the difference between, you have some people that have like hundreds of thousands of followers and they never get any business from their profile, and they get no leads, no customers. And then you have people with 5 or 10,000 making a really good number of leads from their LinkedIn. Positioning is the difference, right? There are so many people producing content online. So what is it about the ones that get more engagement that differentiates them? Yes, sometimes the content is better, but not always. A lot of the time it's actually about their positioning, which is essentially what your reputation is, what you're known for, and how credible people think you are. So essentially who says something matters just as much as what they said. So if you're someone that people automatically trust, they're going to take your word as gospel, and they're going to find it more interesting purely because they trust you. Right? Imagine if you had the same piece of investing advice from Dave from down the pub and Warren Buffett. Probably going to listen to Warren Buffett a little bit more. It's because he's positioned as someone worth listening to, because you know for a fact that he's credible and he's got authority and he's got a track record of success. So it's really, really important before you publish content to actually understand why people should listen to you and why you're credible, why you're authoritative, and make that clear online. So many people I speak to, right, particularly business owners, extremely good business, extremely good at what they do, but because they've spent so much time just building the business and doing what they do, they've never built their brand online. So kind of the quality of their work is up here. Their reputation online just doesn't exist. People just don't realize how credible they are. So positioning really is just about getting super clear on why you're credible, why people should listen to you, and making that clear online through your social profiles.
Is there a balance of talking about what you know? So for me, talking about a sales technique, but again, who am I? Like, how much should I be talking about my experience, my background, what I've done to be able to talk about that?
Yeah. So how many clients have you guys worked with in total?
250? I don't know, off the top of the head, 250 or something.
Okay, brilliant. So if we take you as an example, the way I'd focus on your positioning is you could put out 2 pieces of content. The exact same content is the same, like it's the exact same content in both, but the way you're going to position the content is slightly different. The first one is, here are 5 tips to increase your sales, to get more sales.
Yeah.
The second one is, we've helped 250 B2B organizations improve their lead flow. Here are 5 tips to improve their sales. Second one's so much more powerful because people realize why they should listen to you. The first one, it's like, great, I got these 5 tips, but like anyone could post that. Why should I trust you? The second one, instantly I know why you're credible before I even read the content. And then suddenly those tips and that advice that you give, I'm going to take with a bit more gravitas. I'm really going to digest it and consume it. So you want to lean on things like milestones and results. So a result is something that you've achieved for your clients. For example, grew their business X%, whereas a milestone is something you've achieved as an agency, worked with 250 clients, been going 5, 6, 7 years, however long it is, built a team of over 100 people. Those are milestones. And you can use either of those to build your authority.
Strong. That's strong. You're going to use that now,
I
Chris.
gotta go back and rewrite all my posts now. But
What's the ultimate process for coming up with like content ideas?
There are a few ways to do this. It depends on the type of content you want to publish, right? So we have content. Typically, there's only three types of content that you ever need to post. Content that gets you in front of more people, awareness content, right? Increase the pool of people that you could potentially sell to in the future. Trust building content, consideration content, if you want to look at it through a funnel to build trust with your audience, and then conversion content to actually generate leads out of the connections that you've built, right? If you're posting top of funnel awareness-based content, increase the pool of people you can reach, you want to keep that slightly more general, right? It needs to be broadly appealing to your whole industry, not necessarily just your ICP, right? So you want to go slightly broad. Pick topics that everyone in your industry would find interesting, and you can talk about the same topic over and over and over again. The way to do that is just apply a different angle or lens to it. So if you let's take the topic of sales, right? That would be what I call an awareness pillar for you guys. It's something the whole industry would find interesting. Sales and growing your business. You could talk about sales in so many different ways, and you would never run out of ideas. You could do tools that every company should have if they want to make more sales. So tools. You could do sales mistakes you see often, sales myths. You could do a framework for generating sales. You could do a step-by-step process. You could do sales mindsets that you need to succeed. You could do questions everyone always asks in sales calls, right? Instantly there, I've just come up with 7 ideas from the same topic in about 10 seconds, just by applying different lenses. So thinking about the lens and the angles that you use for content is one really, really easy way to come up with loads of ideas. And then for middle of funnel trust building, best example here is, so write out a list of all of your results and all of your milestones. We spoke about those a minute ago. So list all of those down, and then list every problem problem your audience have or goal that they want to achieve. You should have a list of probably at least 5 of each one, right? And then you just combine them. So you combine a result or a milestone with a problem. You combine a result or a milestone with a goal. And then you teach them how to get there based on the result or milestone that you have, based on your experience. And again, you can just create infinite numbers of combinations of results and milestones with problems or goals. And if you do the groundwork to write down 5 or 10 on each, you're going to struggle to run out of content ideas.
And do you write your own content?
This is a really funny question because obviously we do this for a lot of other people, but I've always written my own content because it's what we do until very recently. And I've now become a client of my own business. Mm-hmm. So I actually have support from my team writing the content. It's kind of, I guess it's co-written, right? So we'll speak, I'll come up with some of the ideas, they'll ask me questions and I'll share expertise. They might write a skeleton of the post and then I'll add in kind of my personal nuances at the end. So it's co-written, but until very recently I wrote it all myself. Now I have a team handling it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I know. It feels weird. But I'm going through everything that our clients go through. So yeah, it's quite a good learning experience.
How do you know what channel you should be focusing on as a business owner or a sales or marketing leader or whatever?
Yeah, there's 2 things. Where are your audience and where are you best suited to? So for most people listening or watching this, I imagine probably LinkedIn is where their audience are, and that would be a no-brainer channel. But equally, if you're really good on video, for example, definitely use Instagram, TikTok, YouTube Shorts. I mean, LinkedIn are pushing video feed now, so you could even publish across LinkedIn. If your audience are on, for argument's sake, LinkedIn and TikTok, but you're terrible at video and you have no charisma whatsoever, just don't even bother doing video yet. Just focus on LinkedIn. Get going on LinkedIn first. So think about where your audience are, but also where your skill set lies. If you're a writer, you might focus more on Twitter potentially. So yeah, where your audience are, where your skill set is.
Obviously,
go on, Chris.
Sam, going back to, I guess, obviously, like I mentioned, you're working with a load of founders, owners, business leaders who don't have time to do this, and obviously want the expertise of an agency support for all the reasons we've talked about. But I guess if they were to do it ourselves, like I'm trying to, and again, building a team around it, we're lucky enough that we are a marketing and sales agency. What is the first hire within a team to help support? Is it copy? Is it creative? What's more important?
I'd say copy first, because that's typically the thing that requires the most time and is the thing that most founders, CEOs are worst at. So they'll always have great levels of expertise. And I guess most people at founder CEO level can think through at least a basic level strategy, but having the copy taken off your hands is going to free up a lot more headspace and a lot more time. So definitely having the copy taken off your hands first. Creative is useful as well. Like if you can have someone even a few hours a week just producing creative for you, that's going to help. But then I would then go strategist after that. So I'd have a copywriter, save yourself the time. You can do kind of base level strategy. And then once you're picking up traction and you can see return on investment, then I'd probably bring in a strategist who can be a little bit more refined with your positioning, the sorts of topics you're covering, etc. But yeah, definitely copywriter, first hire.
Does video actually work on LinkedIn?
It does now, yeah. So LinkedIn recently have been testing a TikTok-like feed. So you'll notice that if you go on your phone, you might have been served some of these videos where it's full screen, just like consuming content on TikTok. You can scroll full screen. And they've been testing that recently. It's not available on every account yet, but most people will have it. Typically what LinkedIn do is they test a feature, and if the feature is successful when they roll it out, they'll reward users for using it. So if this video feed is successful, which it has proven to be so far, and I can't see how it won't be given how conditioned people are to consume video content, they're just going to pump the views on that. So there'll probably be a big spike next year where video performs really, really well. And already, to be fair, we're seeing that videos can just take off, like get ridiculous numbers of views because there's such a gap between the demand and supply. Like lots of people are scrolling the feed, but no one really posts videos on LinkedIn. So there's a real dip in supply. And if you can produce that content, you can very easily get in front of loads and loads of people's feeds. It's not translating that well into new followers, into engagement, and into leads at the moment because the algorithm for video is showing it to lots of people that basically have never heard of you, have no reason to follow you. So it's not the most reliable in terms of actually driving followers and leads, but it's a brilliant way to grow views. And I also just think video, right? Like it's a much richer interaction. You can benefit from tone, body language, facial expressions. So I think it's very useful if you're good on camera to use it.
How do you measure the return on investment?
Yeah, so there's a few ways you can do it, right? Some people, you should be getting leads directly through LinkedIn. A lot of people make the mistake of they expect their prospects just to reach out inbound on LinkedIn. Only actually about 3% of your leads are going to do that. They're now buyers, right? They're ready to go. But you've got to recognize there's also a huge commitment gap between consuming content on LinkedIn and working with an agency or a business where you're potentially spending 4, 5, 6 figures, right? Huge gap in the commitment you make. LinkedIn content, very low commitment, do it in your own home with a cuppa, it's free in 10 seconds. Investing, let's say 5 figures in an agency, really high commitment, right? So there's this big commitment gap that you've got to bridge. And a lot of people say LinkedIn doesn't work because they don't know how to bridge that commitment gap. People are not just going to make that jump on their own. So you really need to have things like lead magnets, things like podcasts that nurture prospects that add a kind of deeper touch point and require more commitment because someone listening to a podcast has to give up an hour of their time rather than 10 seconds, right? So it's slowly increasing the trust they have in you and the commitment they have. So I wouldn't try and track LinkedIn's performance based on leads solely. I would track it based on how much traffic are you driving to either your website, which you can measure with tracking links or UTMs, to lead magnets. Again, you can measure it with UTMs, to basically any key sales pages that you have. How are you getting people from LinkedIn into your actual funnel? That's the number one thing that I would look at if you want to generate sales, rather than the ultimate number of sales. Just push traffic to those pages, essentially. For some people, there's more of an awareness and authority play as well, which is where you're looking at things like follower growth, engagement rate. I think followers is actually a good number. Like, I don't think it's a vanity metric, because if someone follows you, they're subscribing to having your thoughts in their feed every day. That's quite meaningful. I think followers is actually a good number. The other one is engagement rate. You want to have an engagement rate, ideally between 1% and 2%. So out of the number of people that have seen your post, 1% to 2% of them should be engaging with it. That's how you know you've got a post that's kind of relevant to your audience. It's pretty good. Seems low, but actually that's kind of industry standard. That's pretty good. If you're above 1.5, great. If you're above 2%, really, really good.
So just to clarify, Sam, with regards to UTMing content, is that content you're sharing via your posts on your personal feed within your post, or is it a UTM from your company's like LinkedIn page? Like, where are those links coming from?
I would have all of them. So like on your company LinkedIn page, you'll link through to your website, have a UTM there that tracks it's come through the company page. In your profile, you should be linking to your website, lead magnets, key resources throughout your profile. I would link all of those so that you know people have been onto your profile and click that link. In your content, try not to put links to external sites in the content itself. Always put them in the comments. But when you're doing that, again, you can use a UTM in there so that you know someone's seen a piece of your content. So something we did literally yesterday is we published 2025 Thought Leaders Guide. So it's an ultimate guide to building a personal brand in 2025. We ran it as a giveaway. So people had to comment on the post in order to get access. Before this, I looked, it was on 900 comments. So it's about 500 people have commented on it. And each one of them, we sent a bit.ly link, so shortened link, but with a UTM parameter that shows that it's come through my personal brand. So now I can see in our internal systems how many people have actually downloaded that lead magnet and ultimately become clients, because we track how many people have seen the lead magnet through the UTMs. So you want to have a different UTM for company, organic content, and personal profile.
Well, look, Sam, it has been awesome having you on. I personally have taken a lot away from this conversation. So yeah, massive thank you.
I've got my notebook desk down here. I guess one last question, particularly for our listeners, Sam, because I know, as you mentioned, most of our listeners are sales, marketing, particularly people on their founders on their growth journey. Like, we as an agency talk a lot about, from a B2B sales point of view, it's busy, it's noisy at the moment. Telephone, email, LinkedIn, video, direct mail, all these different channels we're using. Like, moving into 2025, how important as a salesperson is your personal brand? How important is it going to be?
For sales, I think it's so underrated, right? There aren't enough business development people building a personal brand. It's such an easy way to stand out because it's difficult to outpitch a strong reputation, right? If you're reaching out to people and they've already come across you, they know who you are, they have some familiarity with you, it's pretty persuasive. And if they've got 3 other BDMs or salespeople or whatever reaching out to them on the same day, but they've seen your content before, they're going to be far more receptive to your message and listen to you far more. Same with if you're pitching, right? If you're pitching for work against a few competitors, you're all probably going to look relatively the same in the pitch. There's only so much you can stand out in a pitch. But if you've got 6 or 12 months of content out on your profile in the background, to me, that would be far more convincing of your expertise than what you say in a 60-minute pitch, which is probably exactly the same as everyone else.
Sam, it's been awesome.
Thanks for having me on, guys. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, I genuinely feel like I've learned loads. If anyone wants to check you out or check out Karugo, where do they find you?
Yeah, best place to follow me, where I'm most active, is on LinkedIn. Sam G. Winsbury on there. There's a few extra resources in my profile. If you want to go to the featured section, there's a load of extra resources that will help.
Amazing. Thanks, Sam. Appreciate your time.
Pleasure, guys. Thank you.